My argument was, and it's highly supported by the data, is that you don't get equality of opportunity without possessing the knowledge that the whole point of the argument, if you read cultural literacy, you remember the point of the argument, no, it wasn't to perpetuate that culture of power. It was to open the door to kids who in the United States, because of our schooling system, don't have access to that knowledge, to those keys to power, tools of power. And that, to me, was a pretty clear argument. It's also true. The question is, when, if ever, will it catch hold?
Coherently, we talk about things such as the fact that in kindergarten we have a unit on Columbus and the Pilgrims. And before we do this unit on Columbus and the Pilgrims, we do a unit on kings and queens, because clearly understanding kings and queens will help students better understand Columbus, because his voyage was initiated by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella as they sent him on his voyage, or his voyage was supported by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Before we do the Columbus unit, we also do a unit on Native Americans so that students better understand who Columbus met when he arrives in the New World. And because the Native Americans were hunters and farmers, we do a unit on farming before we do a unit on Native Americans. And before we do the unit on farming, we do the unit on plants. So we coherently build the knowledge from plants and farms to Native Americans, and we also cover kings and queens, so that by the time we get to Columbus, students have this rich, supportive background knowledge that will help them better understand Columbus.
That's something that cognitive psychology takes a sort of skeptical view of now. It used to be thought that there were higher order general thinking skills and so on. It's now understood that thinking skills are very much attached to particular domains. In fact, what psychologists now tend to use is the word expertise rather than the word skills. As soon as you use the word expertise, you recognize there's a knowledge component there. You really have to be expert about this. And so core knowledge has tried to figure out, well, what are the topics about which it's most important to be expert if you want to be in the top earning tier of, or at least have a chance at getting a good job and being a good citizen. Knowledge came to realize that these inequities, which are not, they're not absolutely necessary, are required, are predetermined, that those lacunae, those lacks in these students could have been rectified in their schooling, should have been rectified in their schooling. And that's what really put me on the path of core knowledge.
Yes, I want to be that. And it's because they were exposed to it at such a young age. And my hope is that, like you said, my little boy who loves history, maybe he'll grow up to be a historian. And how cool would that be?
Astronomer.
An astronomer, very good. That's a tricky word. An astronomer is someone who studies outer space.
The scores you make, for example, on the SAT test will be determined by your vocabulary. There'll be a relationship between your vocabulary and your general knowledge. You just simply don't have the competence as students or as readers, and therefore you're not being given an equal chance in life because you've been denied that sort of basic needed knowledge. Core standards are not a whole curriculum. You've got math and you've got ELA, but to implement ELA properly, you have to have the whole curriculum as a coherent curriculum, because the whole curriculum is what really gives you mastery of language. This is a concept that hasn't, I think, been widely understood. You need to have social sciences, you need to have civics, you need to have science if you want people to be verbally competent, because the background knowledge that's needed to deal with language involves background knowledge of these subjects. And so you need the whole curriculum, not just ELA, if you want to be good at ELA. I don't know how to get that point across.